This is episode 195 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 195 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Tyler Brown on the show, and Tyler is a real estate investor who actually heard this podcast back in 2019. He came to the Greater Hamilton area meetup back when we were hosting that, met the community, and then he just put his foot to the floor on the gas pedal and has done some pretty awesome stuff. He's acquired 10 units by himself, plus another 16 units since then. And out of that 16 units with his partner, he's actually midway reno on all of them. So he's aggressively building his portfolio and looking forward to the future. And he's making the numbers work in the current high interest rate climate that we're seeing with real estate values coming down. So we had an interesting discussion about how to structure yourself and things that you can do to mitigate some of the concerns that we're seeing right now in the marketplace. And a lot of real estate investors are scratching their head right now because they want to know what to do. They want to know what the best approach is. And there were some interesting ideas that came out of this episode. So as always, if you're enjoying the show, leave a positive review and a 5-star rating. It would be greatly appreciated. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. It just helps more people find the show through the algorithm and hopefully help them as investors as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into episode 195 with Tyler Brown. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got Tyler Brown on the show. So Tyler's a long-time listener. I think you still listen. You listened a long time ago and came to the meetup, obviously randomly saw the podcast, and here we are. So Tyler, first off, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's awesome to kind of have things go full circle, start listening to your podcast, learn a lot from the podcast, and then be able to come on the podcast.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing now that it was like almost 4 years, which is insane, is there's stories of people who did nothing, heard the podcast, heard a guest on the podcast, did a whole bunch of stuff. And, now they're just absolutely crushing. And I love to hear that. So we actually haven't chatted in a while, so I'm not sure how things are going. So you want to just start with kind of an intro, the backstory, what you were doing when you found the podcast and what you're doing now in the investing world?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a carpenter by trade since I was in high school. So when I got out of high school, went into the trades and then kind of by fluke started my own business. And then I rolled forward with that for quite a bit. And then a good friend of mine at the time who had accumulated a good bit of wealth decided that he wanted to try and invest in some property and then approached me about doing the same thing. So we were going to flip houses. That's what we were going to do.
Hey folks, I just wanted to take a quick break from the episode to tell you about the GTA West REI meetup. So this is a brand new meetup. It's a restart of the old Greater Hamilton REI meetup, which I used to host before the first lockdown. Well, we're bringing it back with a new name. We're going to have our first meetup happening at Clifford Brewing Company in Hamilton, and that's on November 3rd. 2022, 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So really hope you can make it. We used to get about 100 people out to our events. They were a great networking opportunity, like-minded investors getting side by side, having conversations, having a beer, and just talking shop. Many of you who know my story, I always was a big fan of the networking at meetups and different real estate events, but I never much cared for sitting through the presentations. So this is an opportunity if you really just want to get into a room and talk to people who are doing things. I highly recommend it, and I will be there, and I will look forward to seeing you there. If you want to go to this event, it's very important that you register. So the Facebook group where the event is hosted is in the show notes for this episode. Please just make sure you click on that, add yourself to the group, and then add yourself to the event so that we know you're coming and can make sure we notify the facility of how many people are going to be coming. Thanks, and let's get back to the episode.
It didn't go well. We did 4 flips in total. 3 of them we made a little bit of money on. The last one we made a good bit of money on, but it just was so volatile. It was, you're essentially trying to create something that one person was going to love, and we really got too high end of finishes in the wrong aspect of real estate. We were in a mid-range home price, and we were doing it like what I was used to doing it for my clients, which is really high end.
Yeah, so backstory is that you do building consulting, project management for people. So not a tear-down builder, but you're offering basically services to people.
Yeah, we do a lot. We started doing smaller renovations, then we got into multi 6-figure and 4-figure renovation, new build projects and stuff like that, which we've done and still do to this date.
Okay, awesome. So you were doing the renovations on these flips, and what year was this approximately?
I started in 2013, 2014. So we did 3 flips that did not go well in those two years, and then we did a townhouse which we owned for exactly 60 days, and we made I think we made like 58 grand that we split down the middle on that one, and that was done in 2015. Okay,
so the flips were all early on, and then you kind of cut that out.
Yeah, I kind of took a break for a little bit. I had some stuff that I had to deal with my family. My daughter had some health issues going on and stuff, so kind of put it on cruise control for a little bit, and then started looking at getting back into it. I guess I would say like 2018, end of 2018, starting into 2019. I was originally looking at buying a couple new build townhouses because I know like a lot of the guys out towards Toronto, they look at, appreciation.
Yeah.
They look at, maybe a little bit of negative cash flow. I was kind of okay with that because I had a good income coming in from the construction side of things that I thought, okay, if I buy 2 townhouses side by side, rent them out, maybe I go negative, a couple $100 a month. It's not a big deal. I'm still getting all the pay down, all the easy things, and it shouldn't be a hard thing to manage. And then I kind of stumbled across, I think I saw it on like an Instagram ad or something like that, your podcast. And I started listening to it, and I started seeing all these different ways that people were investing in real estate. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the best use of my skill set as well as my available capital.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Yeah. The whole Toronto thing. And I've been saying to people, not my cup of tea for so long. And this is exactly why what's happening now, because when that correction comes and you don't have cash flow, it just, whether you can handle it or not, if it's a big part of your portfolio, it'll make you sick at night. Like you just won't like it. So I'm glad you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Got into some other stuff.
I think we'll probably talk about this more, how I've been looking at deals, but since the start, I've looked at it very much how you recommended to look at it, where you're looking at, not always the best case scenario. Appreciation should always be the cherry on top. Like all our numbers, we run appreciation at 2%.
Yeah.
We run our mortgage pay down at, the generally 3% a year. So I was never hoping for that. So we were always looking for fairly strong cash flow properties, and still running our numbers at a 5% interest rate. And that goes all the way back to 2020, 2019, when we were running numbers, I was still going at 5%. I still do that now. And now that we're looking at those interest rates regularly, my deals that I did back then still cash flow.
How did you manage to pull that off when, the vast majority of people were not pulling that off? There were many people, taking their 2%, their 3% interest rate, and they were cash flowing $800, $900 on their converted duplex for a while there, for a couple of years. And then that's gotten tighter and tighter. How were you pulling that off? What was the secret sauce? Was it that you were able to do the renovations cheap and, you were mortgaging less? Or, tell me what's behind that.
Well, I do have a duplex that just barely breaks even now. But that's also after we've pulled out, I think about $300,000 of equity in it, plus all of my own money back.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole of my portfolio. Like when I first started out, I kind of listened to your podcast, and I went out and did what everybody was doing at the time, was I bought in Welland. And I did a duplex.
Because I talked about it so much.
I talked to, and I got to give a huge shout out to Scott Zannenberg, John from Blackjack Contracting. Like they really steered me in a good direction with everything out there, and that property did well for me. And when I initially refied, I got almost all my money back out of it because I was able to do the renovations a little bit cheaper.
Was that the first? So that was sort of like the first one.
That was my
2019. You kind of came to the meetups, and then you said, "Okay, I'm going to pull the trigger." Scott Zambergen came. John, I think Tenbrink is the last name you were searching for there. Okay, so those guys were obviously hot into Welland. I don't know if they still are, but
I don't know. I think Scott's kind of moved up north. But it's funny, talking about things also running full circle. I sat down at the very first meetup. And on one side of me was Tyler LeBreche, who's obviously done really well in wholesaling now. And Nick Van Dyke was on the other side, which Nick's still a friend of mine, and we still chat on the regular. And he actually helped me get into the Brantford market. So we did the Welland thing.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot out there, did well with it. And I just realized that the commute was not worth the lower cost in real estate for me. It was very tough to get out there.
And how were you commuting? Like, what were you commuting for? To do the work, to manage the property?
Both.
Everything. Yeah, so you're self-managing?
Self-managing.
See, that's so much work when you're Brantford way, right?
Yeah, I'm in Paris.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a long way to be going back and forth. Obviously you can plant, seeds and put a team together, and then you don't have to go there. But okay. So does that mean you sort of re-steered yourself towards Brantford investing?
Yeah, I was sort of looking at doing that. So obviously we did the my first duplex. We bought it at the end of 2019, closed on it at the start of 2020, got all our permits in place, and then March 2020 happened, and obviously the world went to hell in a handbasket, right? And we did that property during, you know, the whole lockdown situation, and learned a lot about building when we've got supply chain shortages, trade shortages, everything going on like that. And then I took a little bit of a break, and then I took a assignment deal in Brantford, and that worked out really, really well. It never even closed. So we held on to it for about 8 months. The tenants wouldn't get out. Like, none of the conditions in our contract were being fulfilled, so we ended up having to walk away from it.
So it was an assignment that you took possession of but didn't close on?
So yeah, essentially. So
how does that work?
So somebody assigned me the deal, and in the deal that they had constructed, was it was supposed to be vacant on possession. The owners of the property were vacating and stuff, and it ended up being a deal that one of the owners was in prison and the other owner was living in the property, and just vacated the property and could never be found to sign some of the documents and stuff. So
the closing documents didn't get signed.
Yeah, closing documents.
My experience with that, and this isn't legal advice for anybody, but my experience is when the deal doesn't close on the closing date, you as the buyer have no more obligation to the property.
No, and we didn't, but I bought the property.
But you wanted it.
I wanted it because I bought the property so far under market value, and it was such a good deal that I kind of waited it out. But at any given point in time, like if the documents had gotten signed, like then I had to have my money ready to go, and it needed extensive renovations and stuff. So it kind of stopped me from doing anything else for a little bit of time. And then eventually the mortgagee on the property, just, I guess, repossessed the property.
Oh, okay. So they power to sale it.
Yeah. And took it over and then took it over and then did it for themselves. So, which then led to me buying another property in Brantford, and then turning that actually into our shop and offices, and then just kind of slowly the snowball effect happened. Then we started buying more and more in Brantford, because having so many properties so close, it's so easy to manage them. Because if we have an issue at one property, or we have someone stop by a property, we can pop over to the other one. You know, we've got 5 properties within 5 minutes of each other.
Okay. Is that your total now? Did you keep the Welland one? Yeah,
I still have the Welland property, and then we've got 5 properties in Brantford now. So I've got 10 units completely, or 10 rental units completely on my own, and then I've got 16 units with a partner.
Okay. Yeah, you're scaling up quick. So majority of that's all Brantford.
Yeah, majority of it's Brantford.
With the exception of the single in Welland.
Yeah, which I still kept and don't plan on getting rid of anytime soon.
Okay. So now, just looking at your current setup, because you got the construction team, are they like handling your calls if you have stuff that needs to be tended to? You have guys that can just fix stuff that you send over, or are you doing a lot of the stuff?
No, I've kind of really struggled with this, but I'm getting better at it. Is
not doing it yourself?
Not doing everything myself.
Yeah.
And then also guys that I have in my team are getting better and better with not doing it all themselves. So I got to give props to my main guy on site, Steve. He has been instrumental in our growth, because he looks at things from a completely different perspective than me. And he has the ability to micro focus on everything that's going on site, which is huge for us, because I've got like a million things going on in my head at all times, and he's able to focus so much on one. And then Nick Christensen, my guy in the office, we lovingly call Gus, he focuses on all that stuff. Yeah. So it allows me to oversee and then delegate out to them, and then they can delegate further.
So your business nowadays, would you say it's mostly delegated?
I would say a good majority of it is. We do a lot of the carpentry stuff still in house.
So you still will be involved in that?
100%. Okay. I'm still actively
framing houses.
No, but we'll do a renovation framing.
Okay, so just minor, like framing up walls here and there.
Yeah, beams, stuff like that. Creating the layouts of our units, stuff like that. It's so hard to give that part up of it, because once all the framing's done, like that really sets the tone for the rest of the build. It really, gives room shape, stuff like that.
Plus it's fun.
It is fun. It's because we get to be so creative, move things here, this, that. And that part of it we're really struggling to give up, and Steve loves it to death. And he is so analytical and hyper focused on everything. And he's so detail oriented. Like every project we have has the exact same blocking everywhere to put towel bars. We never have to use a drywall hanger. everything
So
like
you just
that.
know exactly where you're putting stuff.
Yeah, and then we've slowly built a system so that when we actually decide to sub that out, we're going to have a whole entire binder with pictures, layouts,
Of exactly how
everything
to
like
do
that.
things. And that's what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, you're pricing this. We don't want you to frame and not do back framing. We want you to put every towel bar block at this height.
Yeah.
We want you to put the toilet roll block at this height. All that stuff. So we have a complete system ready to go when we do decide to sign, to give that out.
Yeah, and that I feel comes from experience. You're never going to know that your first one, but you do it like 10 times. Now all of a sudden, every bathroom this far off of this wall.
Yeah, and that's where I got to give him the props for that. And then obviously Gus in our office, we're creating systems, and we're taking the long way to do it the first time by creating a system to make it easy, but then it's making it easier for us to scale. We've increased 16 units since April of this year. And
so a lot of these are mid, not even done yet, kind of like BRRRR projects.
We have 21 units 21 units right now that are being renovated.
And your team is doing quite a bit of that?
All of it. We're managing it all. So we sub out, drywall, flooring, insulation, plumbing, electrical, all that stuff. But we are still doing a lot of it in-house, a lot of the carpentry work. So as we're growing, as units are hitting certain spots, certain milestones, because they're all at different points of progression, we're adding on more sub-trades, interviewing people, getting more people involved in our team. Some people work, some people don't.
That's so useful, just being having that team, being in construction. I know even just for my small operation, having the people in London that already worked for me to go check on my rental properties was absolutely huge, so that I didn't have to. People you can trust, and you get that by you're working with people who can get stuff done all day long anyway. So now I can work on your properties.
Yeah, and with us, I'm sure with being in the student rental market, as much as you were in London, when you're renovating units, all of our units are different. We only have one purpose-built building right now. So where everything's a mirror image. That building is the easiest one out there to renovate.
Yeah.
The problem is now is that we've got all these different buildings where we've got a fiveplex, where we've got, large one bedrooms, small one bedrooms, and studio bachelor apartments all in one. So every kitchen is different. Every bathroom is different. To make all the layouts optimal, we've got so many different parts and pieces that go in. So it's not a repeat thing, but what we're doing now is even within our internal property management software, we're creating cost codes that when we look at a property the next time, we can go, okay, we're going to have a corner neo-angle shower in there. We can do a 54-inch bathtub there, a 60-inch bathtub there. And we have all the cost codes of what these things are going to cost us, the install costs, everything like that. So we can analyze our deals quickly and then create working operating budgets right away.
That's wild. But obviously because you're quoting jobs, you have this kind of stuff available to your team. Yeah,
but still, anybody that's out there that's starting out, to create yourself a Excel spreadsheet where you have line items all the way down to each exterior vent that you've got to pop out. If you've got to add a vent for a bathroom or a stove or something like that, those generally cost you about $500 a piece. So having all those line items out there and then just slowly adding to them, as you do your first project to your second project, because you're always going to miss stuff. That's so easy to do, and then you just take that spreadsheet and you can reuse it constantly.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think for me, for so long, it was I knew ballpark where my costs were, and I knew as long as I was within a range of even 25 grand, I knew where my numbers were going to be. So I guess I just allowed myself more of a buffer. But the way you're doing it allows you to be tighter, to go for deals that maybe don't look as juicy because you know exactly where your numbers are.
Exactly, but we're also looking at deals that we realize how we can create extra value in a property where somebody else might not be able to. Having good people in our corner with stuff like HVAC, we've been able to create air-conditioned units in a building that originally only had a single boiler system and one thermostat. So, the main floor tenants were always, at a good temperature. Now the upper tenants would be boiling hot and vice versa. So to be able to create things like that, maybe it took us $50,000 to output, but now we're getting another $100 or $125 a month per unit because we're offering all those extra incentives.
Climate controlled units. Yeah, that's one of the big things. And I've never really gotten into multis beyond duplex, is just being able to control the individual units. I always looked at buildings and said, well, I don't want a suboptimal unit where the tenants complain, because you're just gonna have people move in and then they're gonna move out a year later after the lease is up because they don't like it, because it's not comfortable.
No.
So the more comfortable you make it, the more they'll want to stay. Of course, some people like Sarah Larby would say you don't want them to stay anyway. You want to just be able to go to market rent, next year. But I think no, you want a desirable product that's gonna make people sign.
Well, now agreeing with Sarah in that way, we do want to create tenant turnover, and that's actually where we've looked at kind of focusing our purchasing power on actually a lot of one-bedroom apartments, because we're hoping that when we start leasing them out, we are going to get a lot of young professionals, especially in the areas that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And so we might have a young professional or a young couple that's working in the downtown core at some of the businesses that are popping up there, and then they're going to start their family, or they're going to need to upsize. And then even as they upsize, we've got some large 2-bedrooms that we can maybe even pivot a great tenant that's been a 1-bedroom into a market rent 2-bedroom, and then pull a new tenant into that 1-bedroom, and then hopefully see that turnover. You're not always going to get that, because you're going to get the people that want to stay there forever. But for the most part, we're trying to aim at that's what we're offering.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's going to change more now as rents have kind of been pushed up even more. If more people are just going to plant their heels and stay longer. I know way back when I asked Mark Loeffler, and he just said, I don't really force it, but 25% of my tenants are going to turn over in a given year on his like older builds. I wonder if that's still true. If that, like, obviously on a micro scale, you might not notice that, but if you have enough units, maybe that's what he was getting at with that comment.
Well, I mean, I can try and let you know in a couple of years, because we're hoping to have a lot of those units in a few years. But definitely, I think that an organic tenant turnover is good. Also, if you do buy a building that's got some tenants, we've worked with some tenants doing some cash for keys stuff to get some people out. But
and how often are you finding yourself doing that for per 10 tenants? Are you doing that twice?
So in everything we've done so far, we've been really lucky with some of the properties we've purchased. So one of the properties we purchased was actually marketed as a student house.
Okay.
And the students' leases were all coming due.
Yeah.
Most of them were actually going to be leaving. And when we looked into the info on the building, it was actually registered as a 5-plex.
Okay.
So we bought that property and essentially took it over vacant, and we were able to find one of the students a rental that was actually a friend of ours who had a student rental, and then the other one was able to find a place just down the street. Okay. And then we took over a completely vacant 5-plex essentially.
Was it set up like a 5-plex?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was set up.
So you thought it was basically a rooming house?
It was set up as a rooming house, but they just essentially removed doors.
Okay.
All the fire system was still there. The fire breaks were still there.
It had separate kitchens and all that?
Separate kitchens, the whole 9 yards. Now we've taken it back to the studs and essentially doing full cosmetic on it. So brand new kitchens, brand new bathrooms, brand new everything. But it was already set up like that, which was huge. We took over another building that an investor was just kind of at the point where he had a lot of 30, 40, 50 unit buildings. Yeah. And this was like the rock in his shoe, essentially. It had, some fire break issues where he had some stuff going on with the city. It had a hoarder in it. It had a young man that was selling some stuff out the side door that might not have been 100% legal. And we took that over, and dealing with a great lawyer, we were able to come to an agreement with all those tenants and get them out for what we thought was a reasonable cost. Now we're renovating all those units, and we're going to have market rent for them.
So just repeat for me, how many units was that building?
The one we got the tenants out of? Yeah, that was a 4-unit, all 1 bath, 1 bed, 1 bath.
4 units, all 1 bed, 1 bath. Is that one a good one to go through the numbers on?
You know what? That one's actually right in the middle of being renovated right now.
Okay. But we can. What's a good one? Yeah, like whatever one you have, because I know you've done a bunch, right? You're in the middle of 16. Maybe you had a good one. Like it'd be great to crunch some numbers on something that's indicative of today's market and where you think things are going to be.
Well, you know what? One that we can definitely take a look at, because there's one right down the street from us that, even though we're just finishing up the reno on it right now, it's all been leased out. So these numbers are actually going to be.
And you're about to refi, or you already are?
We're about to refi.
Yeah. Okay. This is awesome. So Tyler brings notes, fully prepared. No one does this much. Yeah, he's got like a whole pamphlet here of everything. So fully prepared. Appreciate that. Totally unnecessary, but it'll allow us to get some accurate numbers. Okay, so what's this property called?
So this is 6th Ave.
6th Ave. Okay.
It's in Brantford. It's actually a property that we bought from a wholesaler. I think it was SLG Properties. Jocelyn.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it through her.
Yeah, I know those guys. I just had them on Sal and If I'm getting that right. Yeah, I think that's them.
I dealt with Jocelyn there.
Yeah.
She was fantastic to deal with.
Yeah.
It was actually a really smooth transition from like the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
We bought it sight unseen. I drove past
All right.
it. That was it. But even with that deal, you know, trying to make a deal out of nothing, that owner actually needed money up front. So we gave them a deposit. Then we had to register a mortgage on the property where we were the mortgagee and a bunch of stuff like that. So we really got creative to close that deal.
Sometimes you make the most money being creative like that. So thinking outside the box.
Yeah, but also kudos to them because they structured that deal and then were able to bring it to us. And then we were actually we had to put offers in on that property and we came out as the best offer.
Okay, so what was it as a purchase? Was it just like a bungalow? Was it a multi?
No, it was a purpose-built fourplex.
Okay, fourplex.
All 2-bedroom units.
2-bed units.
And they're all 750 square feet each.
Okay. And what was the purchase price?
We bought it for $975. And that's assignment fee, like everything all included.
All in, okay. And what do you figure you'll be all into it for, like carrying costs, renovations by the time you hit refi?
Renovation and holding costs, we're going to be into it for about $250,000.
Okay.
Now we're lucky with this building. It was a hoarder unit. Like everything was piled up in it, but it wasn't. It's the weirdest thing. It was the cleanest hoarder that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like you could go through everything. It was just boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It wasn't dirty. It was just stuff.
It wasn't dirty, just stuff. Okay.
So we cleaned out the unit, the building, and then we're going to be putting about $50,000 into each. And then we've got about $50,000 in carrying, holding, and a little bit of exterior renovation costs.
So you figured $250,000. So what do you figure the new value is? It's tough now with everything kind of adjusting downward.
So, I mean, we've got a building right down the street from us that's almost an exact layout of us. They had it on the market. They had multiple offers on it at 1.45. They actually took it back off the market and then relisted, I think, at 1.75.
Okay, so you think you're somewhere in the middle of that?
No, I always like to be like really pessimistic on any project that we're looking at. So we're actually running the numbers on this one at 1.4.
Okay, 1.4.
So under what we know that their property had offers at.
All right. So you'd potentially be getting a new mortgage at 80% of the value. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So we'd be looking at a mortgage of 1.12.
1.12? Yeah. Okay. And so let's crunch some numbers. Based on today's market, things are a little harder as far as cash flow goes. Anyway, what do you think? First off, you're going to be renting them. So 700 square foot, 2-bedroom units. Those are tight. Those must be very efficient layouts.
I think they're 750.
750? Because that's tough. Like you know this as well as I do. Try and sit down and draft up a blueprint for a 750 2-bedroom unit and feel like it has enough space. Anytime I see it on blueprints, I'm like, no way.
Well, you know what? The one thing I like about this building is they have a very large master and a smaller secondary. Yeah. So like I said earlier, it's perfect for that person that's going to maybe start a family there, but their kid's going to outgrow that room. So they are laid out pretty well. I'll have to we have blueprints of them all, so I'll have to send you over them. But they are laid out well.
I do also, caveat to that is like I see like these Toronto builders, people get creative and they come up with stuff that does work. It's just from, if you're not looking at an existing design and you try and come up with one on your own, it's actually hard to think of how to make it spacious.
Yeah, so this building, to be exact, actually so one side's slightly bigger than the other. So they're 748 square feet and then 794 square feet.
Okay.
On one side or the other. So
close
call
enough.
It right in between. But yeah, based on market rents and what places have gone for and what the place down the street just completely leased out for, we're looking at a total rent on that building of $83.80. So we've got 2 of the units that are going to rent out at $19.50 a month, and then 2 of the units that we're thinking are going to go for $2,000 a month.
Okay.
We also have storage units in the basement, which we're going to assume we're going to have half of them leased out. Not all of them. People won't always need it. And then we're also supplying our own internet at the building for our tenants.
Okay, so storage unit income is going to be on top of that.
Yeah. Well, no, that's all in.
That's your all-in number.
Our all-in number with our internet going to our 4 tenants and with our storage units being 50% rented.
Perfect.
We'll be at $83.80.
Okay, $83.80. So as far as a vacancy rate to apply as like a global rate, like, do you apply any when you're looking at your numbers?
I do. So what I generally do is I do a capital expenditures and maintenance. and then a miscellaneous expense.
Yeah.
And then I do, property management,
Okay.
mortgage, stuff
Sure.
like that.
Okay, so I'll just throw in like a 1% vacancy there. I mean, because you never know, you might have a unit vacant for a month. Taxes, what are they going to be on that building?
Do you want yearly or monthly?
Yearly.
5,800.
5,800. Insurance, do you have a number for that?
Insurance is 318 monthly.
318. So 3,800 a year. And then we've got maintenance. Now it's a freshly renovated building, but there's always maintenance.
I do run it a little bit less than what I know you do in the past because we've touched everything on all of our buildings. We generally go between 3.5% and 5%.
Yeah.
So for this particular building, it's all brick exterior. The whole facade's already been redone. So we're running at about $350 a month because there's no running furnaces or anything either.
No running for. Oh, so it's all in unit. Every unit has their own.
So it's baseboard heat throughout the unit. The tenant, all the utilities are separated.
Yeah.
And then obviously the tenants will be able to do their own thing with electric air conditioning.
Right. So not to get off track too much, but I just want to go into the logic behind my approach with this. I usually like to gross up maintenance because of the life cycle maintenance, which I know I've said on this before. But in this case, if like say you just did the roof and you expect the roof to be done every 25 years, you just want to make sure that 1/25th of the cost of a new roof is sort of budgeted into this year. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Is that sort of how you look at it as well?
Not exactly the same as what you're talking about. That's actually a really good way to look at it. I'll probably start implementing something like that soon. I'll probably create another spreadsheet for that.
Some people do like CapEx or whatever. I don't know, but I just like for simplicity, because even on my student rentals, like I wouldn't even have to paint them inside of a year if it was the same tenant staying 3 years. Mm-hmm. But I know, give it 10, 20 years, all of a sudden the roof's got to be done. That roof's going to cost $8,000, $10,000 by then. So it's just, you don't want to have one really negative year in your mind. So you just kind of say, okay, well, technically I collected more, but we're setting some money aside for those things.
So what I've started doing and what we're going to continue doing is we're going to let all properties accumulate to $10,000.
Yeah.
What we'll probably start doing as our portfolio grows and grows and grows is we'll take that number down, because across all the properties we'll have so much available funds. It'll be a little stupid to have $10,000 in 10 properties. Right?
And I would do that. Like I've got properties that have accumulated to $30,000. So it's like, now it's like, okay, we'll start using that money somewhere else now.
So we'll have that slush fund sitting there for that property, which will handle any one of the big expenses. But we're going to be putting money aside every month on top of that for all of our expenditures before we take out our own cash flow.
Makes sense. Okay. So utilities, are you paying utilities on these, or are they all plus utilities?
So this building in particular, we do not pay any utilities other than a common electrical, which runs one baseboard heater on the main entry, one baseboard heater upstairs, 3 lights, and we do water as well. So
you do water, so the electric is probably going to be like what, 150 a month or 130 or something like that on average.
I would be surprised if it's even that, to be honest.
Well, just in the winter, it's going to be expensive. In the summer, it's going to be next to nothing.
Yeah. So we can run it at that.
Even at 100, you call it 100 a month times 12.
And then we do water as well. So call that another 125. Say we're 250 all in for utilities.
Times 12. Yeah. So that puts you at 2,700 for the year. Management, you're self-managing?
We're going to self-manage all these units, but when we look at our numbers, we do put in a management fee, because eventually we're going to get to the point where we don't want to be self-managing. Yeah. Or if we want to implement someone. Now, I have been working with a manager that gives me a great deal on managing. They charge me a flat rate of $100 a unit, which has worked out well in the past. So I do have that.
So is that sort of what you're budgeting? So what is
$400 for that building a month.
$400 a month. So let's see here. So equals 400 times 12. I usually have this as a percentage. So that's going to work out to be about
4%.
4.5%.
Yep.
Not bad. We'll call it 4.5. Okay. So other things that we got to consider: landscaping and snow removal.
Yep. Yeah. So we have that budgeted in at $225 a month
for across the year.
Yep.
Yeah. And
now we are hoping that we can get one tenant in there. There's like a postage stamp of grass and stuff like that. So we're hoping we get one tenant in there. Oh
yeah, for sure.
Toss them $25 off their rent or $50 off.
Yeah, just offer to pay them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll pay you $25. Yeah, I don't know if there's a legal implication to having it come off their rent or not, but who knows?
I'm not sure, but it's worked out on other properties for
You know
us
what you
before,
could do?
so-
You could just say, hey, the tenant who has this one has to cut the grass.
Yeah,
you could probably get them to do it for free.
Yeah, you can put that right in the lease.
Yeah, you just say, hey, whoever has this unit has to cut the
I
grass.
have a property that we gave them the opportunity to use green space, and it was, you get the front yard, you get the backyard, you both have to take care of it.
Yeah. So I have a front back duplex, what's more of a semi, but and I 2 separate backyards because of the way it's set up. So I had to like sketch out which tenants were responsible for which, and then of course write it in detail in the contract. But they both take care of it.
Oh yeah, and that
no problem.
that's so key with being so clear and concise about who's got access to what areas and stuff, because that can become a nightmare so quickly. Which is like, I love watching what Michael Watch Properties and Ian Poulin and stuff like that are doing out the Niagara way, because they divide everything up.
Yeah.
They make those triplexes and duplexes like perfect.
Yeah.
So clear and concise. You can't mess up those.
Yeah, I'll have to catch up with Michael. I have chatted with him, but I haven't really gone into detail about his stuff. Like, I remember early on he came on the podcast and he had 3 properties, and now he's coaching people and doing all kinds of stuff, and he's got his Muskoka property and everything.
Yeah, he's really doing some cool stuff. I like following these guys because no matter where you think you're at, like, I didn't think I was going to be where I was at a year ago. I always had some goals, and then things start snowballing, and those guys start making things look so easy, but just because they created the systems to make them easy.
Yeah, and they're really surrounded by good people, and like you said, like, we have this community. It's so cool. Like, you can just follow everybody. There was a time before the podcast where I didn't know anybody. I could say I don't know any investors in Burlington other than like Carmen. Like, I didn't know anybody. Like, we didn't have any sort of community like this. So that's like one of the biggest reasons to go for the podcast for me was to build that community.
And doing that, you create so many friendships where, like, we've gone to your golf tournaments and stuff like that. You're golfing with people that you've talked to a bunch of times, but you've never actually met face to face. And the one cool thing I've found about the real estate investing community, I know we're getting a little off topic here, but it's the
point of this podcast.
I have never once reached out to somebody or had somebody reach out to me and them not give me like a tradesperson's name or this or that. Like, even Nick Van Dyke in Brantford, who's helped me out a tremendous amount. I got tight with having to get an HVAC guy, and I'm like, hey man, who do you recommend? Boom, boom, boom. Sends me over contacts. He's like, this guy's good for this guy's good for that. Like, there's so much out there still, so many deals to be had. And like,
hi friends, I just wanted to take a break from the episode to tell you about a very first sponsor of the show. If you listened to episode 192B, you would have heard me talk about some of the changes that are happening. And one of the changes that are happening is I'm bringing on some sponsors, some value add sponsors that are people that I believe in. I believe that offer great services, and I'm more than happy to put my name behind. So first sponsor is my brother-in-law, Jacob Campanaro. Jacob is with Royal LePage Signature Realty. Jacob and his team are investor focused. They operate here in the GTA as well as across Ontario for commercial real estate. When it comes to residential and small multifamilies, that's mostly here in GTA West. Jacob, in addition to being my brother-in-law, is also a joint venture business partner of mine on our campground. He was also the guy who found that deal and wrote the agreement, negotiated it, and helped us get that acquisition last fall. From my perspective, he's got a real eye for real estate and makes sense deals. He's very transparent with the numbers, and he's a regular guest on my brand new show, REI Hot Seat. If you haven't checked out REI Hot Seat, make sure you do, because you can check out Jacob dropping wisdom for real estate on a regular basis. Jacob's family, a friend, and a business colleague who's really helped me elevate my mindset, and he's taught me quite a bit about commercial real estate since that's his focus. With the direction that the market's going, I really do believe that there are a lot of opportunities that are available right now, and there are also a lot more opportunities coming as more and more inventory hits the market. If you want to be poised to take advantage of this, it's going to be really important to have a power team. This is why I think it's really important that you're working with investor-minded realtors, no matter who those are. And I think Jacob's team could make a great fit. So if you're an investor and you're thinking of buying or selling, be sure to visit andrew-hines.com/Jacob. Once again, that's andrew-hines.com/Jacob. Go ahead and opt into the form, and one of Jacob's team members will be in touch with you to set up a call and set up an action plan so that you can prepare to take advantage of the coming opportunities in the marketplace. I really do appreciate your patience as we bring on some value-add sponsors to the show. Please remember that when you support my sponsors, you support me, you support this show, and support bringing on new guests that can add a lot more value to our listeners. So thank you, and let's get back to the episode.
Everybody just wants to see each other succeed. It's like such an abundance mindset out there with real estate investors, and it's also like such a success-driven mindset. There's no, I would say there's greed to a point. Like, we all want to grab the best deal and do the best, but we also want to see everybody else out there doing well.
Such an interesting thing. I feel like people just can't help but talk about what they're doing with real estate because they're just like excited about it.
Because nobody else wants to talk to you about it.
No one wants to talk about it, yeah.
Like, you go out to a normal barbecue. I can't sit there and talk about real estate or what I'm doing or a property and stuff like that, which is one of the hard things it was for me to come on.
Sometimes people do want to talk about it. I find real estate's a topic a lot of people are open to.
Everybody just asked me what I think rates are going to do. That's all I get right now.
So what do you think rates are going to do?
Yeah. Go back down.
Go back down. Yeah, we'll dig into that more. But okay, so first mortgage on this bad boy, you're going to be looking at an 80% loan to value, hopefully, if the numbers work. They're going to apply. I mean, do you know which bank? I guess you don't have to share this, but if you know which bank you'd be working with.
We don't. We've actually started putting out some applications now. But we'll be going with, like, just a general conventional mortgage because it's under.
So it's a residential mortgage, so you can go for 80 rather than 75%. You're going to get a lower rate. You can do the 30-year AM.
Yep.
So those are all benefits. But of course, when we apply that 6% interest rate, and I don't know, is that what we would get today, you think?
It's hard to say. You talking fixed or variable?
Fixed, I'm thinking. Variable, I mean, do people still take variables right now?
I have.
I feel like that's a very dangerous proposition, knowing that, I mean, inflation has not been controlled and the Bank of Canada is just incessantly raising rates. And every time the overnight rate is upped, that's when prime rates go up. So
I agree.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is I wouldn't be locking into a 5-year fixed right now.
Oh yeah, it's a real pickle right now. We'll dig into this more in a second. But so say we're 6% right now on a fixed.
Yeah, I'm running my numbers currently at 5, but I
at a variable.
Yeah, I haven't changed.
In which case you might want to budget 7% on your cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're at 7%, I don't know if they're going to okay this, like, because when you're dealing residential, they're going to look at, depending on the bank, they're going to look at your guarantor, who is probably your partner on this deal, right?
Yeah, me and my partner.
Yeah. So are you both on the mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay, so the two of you will be on there, and your income will help qualify you. It would be a negative at a 30-year 7%, but that's based on you paying property management, which you're not actually. Mm-hmm. So we could take that back out. If it's 6%, you're $460 a month. It's crazy how quickly skewed. So $500 more if you go to 7% from 6.
Yeah. So my numbers with a couple, I think I was at 5.5 variable.
Yeah.
And my numbers, I came out at 501.
I've got a 5% even would be 1,000 cash flow.
Yeah. So I do have a couple other miscellaneous expenses plugged in there, like the internet and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So internet. So I have 500 miscellaneous for you. It should probably be more like 1,000 or something. Yeah. Cover the internet and just whatever else.
Which will affect it a little bit. But
a little bit, not a huge amount. No.
But where we're a little bit different than everybody else, you always have to invest for what you're looking to do. There's people out in Toronto that have, huge incomes that are investing in condos that have done very well for themselves, or pre-con condos, because they've got high incomes. We're still both actively doing our everyday job. Yeah. So as long as we're getting a little bit of cash flow to the properties, and especially in these turbulent times, we're really happy with them. Because there's not a lot of opportunity out there to buy any sort of property that's getting you cash flow. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it based on what you say it's worth when it's done. The cap rate's probably going to be, well, I'd have to look at what that is. So I actually have this in here based on 80% of a 1.225, which that's actually what you're getting it for, or sort of what you're going to be in for. So I just need to adjust this. My apologies. So if you say it's worth 1.4 and you're getting 80% of that, that's where your cash flow is actually going to be a little bit lower. So at 5%, I've got $271 of cash flow. That's based on 80% of 1.4 million.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a little bit, maybe I've been a little bit more conservative in some of my assumptions here. So,
but you want to be though.
Yeah.
You don't want to look at these things
and be wrong. Yeah. The biggest thing I don't ever want to be stuck with is just a property that loses money every month that's worth less than I paid for it that's just like the perfect combination to make people not want to invest in real estate. So that's the situation I've been in and want to avoid.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with you. We've got, we look at it like a bunch of different ways. We can look at it like, okay, how much money are we going to get out of the deal in comparison to our cash flow? Because we've got other properties that are cash flowing around the same amount, but we have, $20,000 or $30,000 left in them. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then we've got properties that are cash flowing amazing. Yeah. But we've got, $250,000 left in those properties.
Yeah. So this one you would have hypothetically. So say this all works out the way we think. So say, let's just go to a zero appreciation for now, just because we don't know what things are going to do. Maybe in the next 5 years, it's net even. Who knows? If that's the case, your net investment on this is going to be about 105 if you get 80% of 1.4 mil. And then you're going to have about a 21% return on investment based on pay down. Yep. So pay down and cash flow are going to kind of do that for you. Obviously, we both know it's a longer term play than the next 5 years. I mean, in the recent past, people have been blessed with just crazy appreciation on what they own. So that's worked out well for them.
And, the crazy appreciation that we've been blessed with is one of the reasons that we've been able to grow our portfolio the way we have.
These you could refinance, reuse that money.
Yeah. Exactly. So it sucks maybe we're not getting the greatest cash flow right now, but we're looking at it across the board too, because we're not just looking at one individual property. We're looking at a handful of them where, some of our other properties are cash flowing much stronger than that. Yeah. And then other ones are,
so stuff that was already done, already locked in. It's cash flowing well.
Even a couple of our properties that we have in renovation right now, based on going market rents, we will cash flow a little bit stronger than this particular property. Okay. But any chance that I'm going to get to buy a vacant purpose-built fourplex in an area that backs onto green space that is going to continue developing around the city, I'm going to take every single day of the week. 100%. I will take that no matter what. Any chance I get a property that's a purpose-built fourplex that I'm taking vacant, that I'm going to be able to assign all my new own rents to, I'm always going to take that every day of the week. And, we've been very conservative with value on this property when we look at our numbers, and we've been very conservative on rents. The property down the street from us wasn't completely renovated, didn't have soundproofing between them. A lot of things that are going to make our property better. Yeah. So when we're looking at these numbers, this isn't a stretch goal for us. This isn't like, this is the best we're going to do.
This is highly likely to do. But the other thing is, your rates could go up, but also your rents could too. So you could have turnover, and now next year you're renting out for more. And that's you don't want to bank on any of that, but it could happen.
And we've been conservatively told by some real estate agents and people in the area that actually have no, I don't know what to say. They've got no vested interest in this property, saying that even us running those numbers are low. They're saying you're going to be able to get 21 and 2250 for those buildings, for those units. So I always like to be really conservative, because then when I go back and look at it, I'm always going to be happier. If we get a value of say 1.5 million, and we can take a lower valued mortgage and stuff like that and have good cash flow, we'll be really happy. And that's really gearing us to where I think we're eventually going to go, which is probably going to be taking on some investors, because the money tree in my backyard hasn't been sprouting as well as it has in the last couple of years.
Thinking the same. Yeah.
So when we eventually start looking at taking on some private investors and stuff, we're going to have to be able to show them a property that's going to make sense for them. Their cash on cash ROI is going to have to make sense in comparison to what they can make in the bank. Their long-term returns are going to have to make sense to them.
But the cash on cash, and I just put my spreadsheet away. In the recent days and weeks when I've run these numbers, cash on cash on these deals is absolute garbage. Unless you can pull a significant BRRRR where you're pulling all your money back out, or most of your money back out.
Yeah, I think our cash on cash returns are on that property, I think they were 4.49 or something like that. So they're not bad when you look at them in comparison to what someone's going to dump their money into in the bank, or what they're going to do if they put all their money into some certain stocks, right? Are they beating some of the stuff in the stock market right now? No, absolutely not. But we're looking at
now it's kind of changing, right? I mean, I think you've got
and I guess we should say
private lending people can do. That's that's an avenue where you can still get cash flow return on your investment, but it's real estate in the GTA, I'll say, has seemingly in the last little bit made less sense because of the interest rate change. 100%. But I mean, things are still transitioning and changing. Values are probably still going to continue to come down. There's going to be opportunity for a lot of people to buy stuff.
I guess we should also say that for the newer listener, a cash on cash return is the amount of cash flow they're getting monthly in comparison to how much cash they've got put in the property.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many different ways to analyze the deal because they're still on top of that going to be getting their return on investment based on, a little bit of appreciation that we hope we get, our mortgage pay down, all that kind of stuff, which is where it takes that 4.49 number and boosts it, up into the double digits, which is still...
Right. Well, yeah. So I gave a total return on it. I think we were looking at, not even counting appreciation, it was like 20% plus.
Yeah.
Which is, where are you getting 20% plus anywhere, right?
You're not.
You're beating inflation at that rate, I think, hopefully. The true inflation that no one's actually reporting. I think even that you're beating that. But we know here's what we know in the long run. We just don't know how long is we know that right now there's immigration into this country that we can't keep up with. We're not building enough houses. There's even new housing starts are now being discontinued. They're not actually starting a lot of the starts that were supposed to happen. So we're in a situation where the housing short supply is going to grow.
100%.
So how do you continue to have low rates? It just depends on just how much people are hurt by what's happening right now, what sacrifices they're willing to make, moving in with family, doing things, or the homeless population goes up. Who knows? But it's hard to imagine a world where 30 years from now, the values haven't recovered. But it could very well be 10, 15 that they haven't. That's possible. And there is historical precedent for that. I hope it's not that. I hope it's more like, hey, next year, people are starting to bounce back and we never really go below 2019 levels or whatever it is. Some consistency would be awesome. Consistency
would be key, and I think that will start to roll the first time that the bank announces no new change in rate.
Yeah, no new change in rate.
Which nobody's got a crystal ball. I think that's got to come sooner than later, because there's no way that you can keep on raising rates and trying to curb inflation based on, in my opinion, it's actually one sector. They're trying to slow down the housing market, and that's what everyone keeps on talking about.
Yeah.
And you can't keep on doing that when we're not creating enough housing. You won't talk about all the other problems that we have. And now, me being in the trades, I see it firsthand. We don't have enough tradespeople. No, a lot of the cost.
That's a cultural problem, though.
It is a cultural problem. A lot of tradespeople are looked down upon, which is a cultural problem.
Ridiculous.
And I've never seen a plumber or an electrician or a drywall guy that's, normally missed a mortgage or anything like that. Most of them have, a boat and a four-wheeler.
Yeah, these are people who are going in now. Lives. Like if somebody, probably not a first-year carpenter, but if somebody comes and works for you right out of high school, they're making money right off the bat. You're teaching 100%. Them a trade, and within a few years, they're making... Probably, I don't want to throw any numbers out there that I shouldn't, but there's many trades where people are making 100 G's in the first couple of years.
Yeah, and everybody that's with me right now is making well into the 30s an hour. We do everything hourly.
Yeah.
But I actually, which is something maybe we could touch on too. Sorry, we were talking about the rate. I think that things are going to have to come down. We're not building enough housing. Yeah. We don't have enough people. Yep. To build the housing. So eventually this is going to have to turn around, or we're going to have to shut the floodgates of immigration and stuff like that. And we're going to have to say people can only have one kid, which we're never going to shut down the floodgates of immigration. We're never going to tell people they can't keep producing.
And this is the thing, like I'd love to take hard lines on this stuff. I've consistently said on all the prediction episodes on like Mark's show and stuff, like I wish I could predict what the human response will be, but we're trying to predict what people who have proven they're reckless and there's no methodology to what they're doing will do. And that can be, although you can still detect patterns, but it's pretty tough to say anything for certain anymore. Before the lockdown started, I was a lot more certain about a lot of things than I am these days, other than certain that their insanity is true. That I'm sure of.
Well, the one thing that I know is that, and I've looked at it pretty much this way since the start of COVID. I was down in Florida actually when it all happened, and so I saw the response down there. I saw the response up here, and I was talking to someone who's very financially savvy down there, and I was crunching numbers, how long I could hold on to properties if no one was paying me bills and if I wasn't collecting from the construction company and stuff. And they sat across the table from me and said, if you go broke, think about how many people before you are going to go broke. Yeah. And this is the same person that bet hard on the 2008 recession on the auto manufacturers being bailed out. He said, if those manufacturers go into the ground and now warranties are voided, all these people don't have jobs anymore, all this stuff, we've got a bigger global crisis than me losing money. So I've kind of gauged myself on that. Like, I think that the housing market isn't going to be as strong as it is. But if we look at it historically, we still have low rates. Everyone's like freaking out because
historically we do. Yeah. I mean, what would you have to go back to like 2006 to find these rates again?
100%. We've got historically, low rates. They're high for what people have been doing in the last, 10
years,
10 to 15 years. But I think that we're not going to see a sub 3% mortgage again. I don't think. But I think rates will peak, and I think they're going to come back down to a little bit more realistic number. So we might have to all weather a storm a little bit with it. But I think it's the short-term pain is going to be worth the long-term gain, because at any point in time, you look at the real estate cycle over a long-term period, it is a long-term game, but so many people have gotten so used to being a short-term game right now, where if you bought real estate at any point in time, you look like a genius in the last couple of years.
A lot of people have looked like geniuses, made it look easy, people jumping into the industry like crazy.
Well, me included. I wouldn't be where I'm at now without, everything happening the way that it did. But it's now, how are you going to pivot and make sure that you aren't overexposed? None of our properties are actually brought up to 80% loan to values right now. All of our properties still cash flow. It's how are you going to protect yourself when, the government's trying to yank your pants down?
Okay. So abstract thought. And this is what I genuinely wonder. Like, I'm sure most people listening to this have at somewhere or some level in the last 2 years heard all this World Economic Forum stuff. You'll own nothing by 2030 and you'll be happy, Klaus Schwab, and how all of our leaders like Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau, they're all members of the World Economic Forum, meaning that they buy into this mission, this mandate. So how on earth do you take this capitalist loving society, at least as of a few years ago, free society, and you turn it into something within 10 to 12, 13 years where people own nothing? And then I look at, so all the nonsense, there's Trudeau's quote, "You'll forgive me if I don't think about monetary policy," like 2 years ago when the lockdowns were happening. And, I'd have this debate with Mark and whatever. Is it negligence, or is it like intentional? Is it, and I can't help but think, how could anyone be that dumb? Like all the things, like I called this out. You guys can go back and listen to episodes back in like the 60s, episode 63, I think I went on a rant and explained exactly this type of scenario coming and how it would make people desperate and it would destroy lives. And it doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone do this? And little old me with a podcast and these government officials can't figure it out. So I think about it and I look at it, and I know this is a rant, but is this part of the plan? And if it is part of the plan, what if there was a pump and dump that was planned? They wanted to inflate assets to cause them to collapse, to cause a wealth transfer. And like you said, weathering the storm. So I think about these things, I question these things because, one, I want to protect myself and my family and plan and make sure that we, if there's a type of asset we can buy to escape some of that, or we kind of predict, hey, what's still there on the other side? But I know if we have got crazy people in control, seemingly, that say you'll own nothing and be free and be happy about it. I don't know about the be happy about it, but I mean, they seem determined about that first part. So knowing that, I don't know, I guess, do you take that with a grain of salt? Do you think that's just a bunch of, bureaucrats being bureaucrats, or is it actually something that factors into your thought process for the next 10 years?
My thought process for the next 10 years, I do think about that stuff. Like, me and you have a lot of similar views. I'm a very conservative guy. I have a lot of hope and faith for the country based on who we've just put in for our conservative leader.
So Pierre,
yeah. I think he's one of those people that can really, go to bat for us. I thought we had actually a lot of really good candidates. I was actually going to be happy with a few of them.
I thought that too. Actually, kind of seemed too good to be true. Interestingly, I don't know. I've written politicians off, but I mean, yes, seems too good to be true. I will say that for sure.
The lady from Haldimand, Norfolk that was running, I was actually really hoping for her, because that would just totally shut down the liberal agenda, calling us, misogynistic, racist, and they
still do it, man.
We'd go and elect a lady of color of all things, and I think she would have done a great job. Obviously, Roman Barber, I thought he would have done a great job. I knew he wasn't going to have this tread to get in there, but I'm very happy with where things are looking. In regards to, nobody owning anything. Maybe I create enough wealth that I'm on the top 1%.
Well, yeah, obviously somebody will own. Just the majority won't. And I said this even back in 2019. I said, I feel like society's heading in a direction where there's going to be a renter class and an owner class. Like most people will not own their own home. I thought that before I had ever even heard any of that nonsense.
Well, you travel to Florida quite a bit, so do I.
Yeah.
And I call Florida Southern Ontario, and they're becoming more and more the same because there's two classes of people essentially in Florida. There's people that own a vacation home, and there's people that own no home.
Yeah.
Obviously there are people that own a single family home.
Yeah.
But like the vacation area and stuff like that, there's more and more people that are buying second and third homes down there than there are people that are buying single family homes. So maybe that's the way Ontario starts looking, is that, there's going to be the people that have and the people that do not have.
Yeah. And I think that's very clearly where we're going. There's a lot to unpack that goes with it, but just some thoughts, and I think that it's enough, like a lot of people want to just dismiss that as conspiracy theory, but like legitimately just go to their website, like everybody, questioning it, Google, Forbes, World Economic Forum, you'll own nothing and be happy. And you'll see the 2016 Forbes article. I've shared it in the past, where they actually say this, like it is beyond nuts.
It's gonna be the Hunger Games.
The sooner we admit that this is really happening, then we can just have an objective conversation about where we go from here. And that's, I used to, share this stuff all the time, and I try not to get too much into that. But
no, and I try not to now.
Just because it's a little negative. I don't want to think about that, but you do need to build it into your planning. That's all.
No, and if everybody thought to the worst and the most extreme, like none of us would continue buying real estate.
Yeah,
we would all buy, gold and silver coins and ammunition, and
who knows if that's even good. I mean, I think a little bit of that's probably not a bad idea.
I'm gonna buy a couple cows, some sheep, some stuff like that.
Hey, you know what? I mean, if you bring your supply chain onto your own property,
which is something
people
both
lose
of us
power
always
over
agreed
you.
upon.
Yeah, people lose power over you, right? Like you gain power over people by having what they need, and any leader throughout history has always known that.
Yeah.
So if you have your own food source, your own water source, and all that stuff, I mean, you only stand to benefit from that stuff. How much that'll be needed in the next 5, 10, 20 years, I sure hope it's not needed at all.
And that's where I like to be a little bit optimistic in the incredibly pessimistic statement that you've brought up, is that I hope that we don't get to that point.
Yeah.
One of the things I know everybody's going to need is they're going to need shelter. Like obviously, why are the banks loaning at lower rates for shelter than they will for anything
and
like
that's
that.
Why I've always loved real estate, because no matter what, bricks and mortar, people need it.
It's going to be one of the last things that goes. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't get to that. I hope that enough people in the country stand up and say, we've got something that's good here. I think Canada is a great country, and it's got great people, and it can be a great country, an even better country. Again, I don't want to say it's a bad country. I think some of the things that have gone on in the country have been less than positive, but I think we have the ability as a Canadian populace to get back to where we are all happy and proud to be Canadian.
It's great talking to you, Tyler, as always.
Yeah.
And where do people find you if they want to follow you, reach out to you?
That's one thing we're really working on right now is getting the social media presence out. I'm not as good as any of the other guys, but we're going to start pushing more. A lot of content's being made right now that's going to go out as blasts when we kind of have the ability to do so. But probably the easiest is to go like Instagram, TWB Group.
TWB Group? Okay.
Yeah, you're going to put that in, and then TWB Properties. We're going to start putting out more and more content as much as we can, and talking about a lot more things, how to grow systems, partnerships, stuff like that. If I can leave anybody with anything, is just to get as much information about this stuff as you can. Listen to as many podcasts, read as many books. And if you're going to get into real estate, I think I would leave everybody with one book I think everybody should read that's not a real estate book at all. And that's The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Wilkes and I think Leif Babin. It's a really, really good read. It's a military-based book. And it's a good read because it explains how you should lead people. And anybody that thinks that they're anything other than a leader when they're buying real estate is wrong. You're leading people. You're dealing with relationships. You're trying to get what you need and also give other people what they need. And it's a very good book. And it's really helped me with scaling and looking at things of how to take on my own ownership and then how to put ownership on other people. So I think, absorb as much information you can, read as many books as you can, and then obviously listen to the Andrew Hines podcast.
Well, you got to take action too, but
take action.
Yeah.
But take action in a controlled and analytical way, which is one of the big things they talk about in that, in that book,
which you've the methodology, like you've been so methodical through all of this, like the way you wrap off your systems. I mean, I don't hear that very often to that level, to that degree.
No, and it comes from having the right team around me.
Yeah.
Like, that is not all me by all means. I've given my two main guys actually a little bit of a equity share in everything that I'm doing. So they are even, looking to build systems to better and better, because the better that their job rolls, the more property we can buy and the better they're doing too. So yeah, the systems are a huge thing, but it's putting yourself with the right people and then not being afraid to reach out and talk to people. Like, I was hesitant about coming on and stuff because I didn't feel comfortable talking about this stuff, but it's so important to be able to share the knowledge and then and listen to it, right? Like, you have people on here that are, miles ahead of where I'm at. And then there's going to be people that are, miles behind where I'm at and everywhere in between. And it's so important to take all the lessons from each person. Like, you look at a guy like Nick Van Dyke, if he was on the show, 3 or 4 years ago, he's nowhere near where he's at now. And someone might not get a lot out of his podcast, but they might get a little bit out of my podcast. And then some of the earlier ones where we're talking about guys that are doing duplexes and stuff like that, where it's, more tangible.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been so many great guests come on, and there's so much that can be learned. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, because like you said, somebody's going to resonate with it, and it's and you got a lot of experience here that I think is really valuable. So I appreciate it.
No, for sure. I'm actually looking. I wasn't looking forward to the first one. I got really nervous. Now I'm looking forward to when we can come back on and talk about where we're at. And
those are the great ones. We'll do a progress update. Yeah, sounds good.
It'll be awesome. I appreciate it, Andrew.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.